It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video, and today I wanted to talk about something that I use on a pretty regular basis. Now, this is not the software that I use, but it's some amazing software that I found recently, and it's a prototyping and mock-up tool. So in my daily job, part of what I do as a product manager is actually creating the screens and the workflows for users to utilize in the software that my company creates. And using tools like this right here in front of you is really a major part of what I do. So you've heard of Figma, I'm sure. You've probably heard of Axure. You've heard of Balsamiq. You've heard of all these other things. If you use these type of tools, you'll have heard of at least one of those types of tools before, I'm sure. And there are just tons and tons and tons of them out there, but they're all proprietary. Save one that I know of for sure, which is the Pencil Project by Firefox, or I think Mozilla now. So I was looking for something really, useful, and I came across this one, which is called Quant UX, and it's made by a really, really cool developer named Klaus Schaefer. And so I posted over on his site, kind of looking to try to run this, and there's a few pieces to it, and I asked, hey, are you going to Dockerize this at some point? And he responded like he'd try to get to it, but he wasn't really familiar with Docker. So I said, you know what, I'll try to do this and help you out. So that's what I've been working on for the last few weeks with him. And he has been terrific to give me feedback and help me work through a couple of issues I was having. And he even pointed out a couple of little bugs that he had that he fixed, which was amazing. So I really like this tool. I think it's absolutely incredible. And you can see a little video of him going through what all it can do here as far as workflows and creating, like, here's the different screens and here's what happens as you do different actions. And I mean, just look at all these tools and all these different screens he's creating here. I mean, this is really cool. So I'm going to show you how to get this thing installed and running in Docker, because I know if you do this as a job, that this is a tool that you will really like. And I think if we can get more people to use it, he is going to be just thrilled about that. So I think it's really a great, great tool and a great idea that this is out there. And I think it's awesome that you can self-host it. So I helped him get it all ready. I've got the Docker stuff out there, and I've got a repo that I will show you as well. So we'll get into the installation right after this. I just want to say thank you so much to all of my patrons over at Patreon and all of my subscribers on YouTube. It means so much to me that you want to support me and the content that I create every week, and that you're getting something out of my content. I just can't say thank you enough, but I really do want to let you know that it means so much to me, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you again. Now let's get started. So if you go over to quantux.com, you can check out what he's got available, and actually you can use his hosted version, so you can try it out. You can sign up for free. He does have some pricing. So right now, $0. Sign up for free. Okay, Quant UX is free. It's test early and test often. I think that's amazing. Now, he may add some pricing tiers at some point, and I understand that completely, because again, keep in mind, when it's open source and free, any way that you can monetize that and support the open source development is important. So even if he says, you know what, I'm going to start charging a few dollars a month for this hosted version where he's hosting it, that helps pay for his hosting costs. That helps pay for his time to continue doing development on this thing. So keep that in mind. Don't get disappointed if you see pricing come up. As long as he keeps it open source, where if you want to, you can run it yourself, I think that's amazing as well. So try to get out there and support him if he ever does go to a pay system. I really, truly believe that if you can support something that you use on a regular basis in open source, you're helping support the open source project, and you're helping support the rest of the open source community. So I'm going to jump over and show you his GitHub real quick. So there's actually a few pieces to this. This is kind of the main one, Quant UX, which runs a node server in the background and uses some different things to do that. But there's actually a front end, which is the node piece. And then there's a back end, and in his instructions, he tells you how to get to the back end, and he's got a different repo for that and what you need to do to get it running. So if you want to run this without Docker, you can absolutely do it. Just follow his instructions, and things should work pretty well. He's got the front end instructions here, and then he's got some configuration things that you need to know about. So a few things that I've had to kind of go through to learn in order to get this set up in Docker, but it really didn't take too much effort to get that done. But if you're not real familiar with this, then you might want to follow the Docker tutorial that we're about to do and just kind of do it that way. So he's got some really cool information out here on his GitHub site. Now, I did all this for him, and I put in an issue basically to get that done, and we made a couple of changes to make things work a little bit easier over that time. And then he asked me just to create a repo for this, so I've done that. So if you go out here to my page, which is bmcgonaghy/Quant UX Docker, and I'll have this linked in the description and in the show notes so that you guys can get to it without issues. Don't worry. You'll see out here that I've got Quant UX for Docker, and I tell you a little bit about it. And I do link back to him and his profile so you can see some of the other stuff he does, because this is totally his project. All I did was set up the Docker stuff. Docker Compose details here so that you have a little bit of information, how you can get the Docker Compose file, or you can just clone the repo, whichever you want to do. If you want to kind of change things around in the Docker files and rebuild, you're free to do that. This is all open source, GNU version 3. Here I want to tell you a little bit about those basically environment variables that we need to use. So this just kind of explains what they're for and why they're set up, but we'll go through this during the install. Down here I talk about the ports that it uses. Again, kind of the same thing on port mapping. You can always change the host port, just don't mess with the container port. And same way with volume mapping. You can change the host volumes, just don't change the container volumes. But there you go. I mean, it's really not too much to get it running. So I do have a Docker Compose file right here. And it's not a long one. It's got quite a few environment variables that we can kind of set. But a lot of these we really you can just leave the same, and then the rest of them you change. But we'll go through that here in just a minute. So what I'm going to do in order to get this running is I'm going to log into my server, so give me just a second for that. Alright, so I'm logged into my server, and the first thing I'm going to do is go into my Docker folder. So I like to use this folder because it keeps all of my Docker stuff together. It keeps everything where I can find it. So I'm going to clear this out. Now I'm going to create a directory for this, so I'm just going to call that Quant UX. Then I'm going to cd into Quant UX. And inside this directory, you can see there's nothing yet. So I'm going to create a Docker file, a Docker Compose file, docker-compose.yml. And I'm just going to go grab this text out of here. So you can do this 3 different ways. You can just copy and paste. You can pull down the Docker Compose file with wget, or you can clone the entire repo and just use the Docker Compose file. It's really up to you how you do it. In this case, we'll just go copy this text, and we'll just paste it into our Docker Compose file we just created. We just want to copy all the way to the end, and then we're going to paste that right in there. There we go. Now I've got a lot of comments out here, so anything after this little hash mark is a comment. So we'll save that real quick, and we'll just go back up to the top here and start from the top coming down. So first we have Mongo. So basically I said restart always. It's called Quant UX Mongo is the container name. It imports basically the image from Mongo. And then volumes is /data on the host side, which means inside of the current folder, which is where this Docker Compose file is, which is Docker, and then Quant UX, create this file called data. So this is where our Mongo data is going to be stored. So if we back up this folder right here from the host, we've got our Mongo data. And if we do a backup job on a regular basis, if anything catastrophic happens, we can grab that data, we can pull this file down, we can put that data in place and just start it back up, and it should be right back where we left it, and we don't lose data, which is very important. Now I have a typo right here. Look at that. There we go. So we can get rid of this comment actually. We don't have to keep the comments. It's just to let you know kind of what this is for. And if we get rid of these comments, it'll make it a little bit cleaner. So we have this first part, I just call it QUXFE. This is just the service that it creates. And then here's the restart always. And the container name is Quant UX, and it's front end. So this is the front end piece. It's going to pull the image from Docker Hub at my repo QUX-FE. And then here's the environment variable. So this environment variable is the proxy URL that basically says I'm proxying this to the API on the back end. So on the back end, I'll scroll down. You can see right here, we call this backend container Quant UX backend. And since these are all in a Docker Compose file together, they all get put on the same Docker network. So I can just refer to this by its container name, so Quant UX backend. And then I have that set up for 8080 inside the container, so that's why I can use this as the URL. So this one right here, unless you make some weird change for some reason, or you're running this on separate servers or something like that, which you shouldn't be if you're using my Docker Compose file, you don't need to change this. You can just leave this alone. There's nothing there to change. So just leave it as it is, and everything should work fine. But you'll know what it is just in case you see it. So this links to Mongo and the QUX backend. And then basically this runs on port 8082. So if you have something already on your host using 8082, you'll want to change the left side right here, this side. You'll want to change this port to something that's not in use on your host. If you're not using 8082, just leave it like it is. There's no reason to change it. Now this depends on the Quant UX backend, which we're going to get to right here. Again, we're going to restart always. We call the container name quant-us. We call the container quant-ux-backend. And again, it pulls from my repo, Quant UX or QUX-BE. It pulls that image down for the latest image. This environment variable points to the front end. So basically this is how they communicate. So this is just communicating with the front end on that same Docker network by its container name and 8082. So this is the port inside the container. So that would be the right side. So even if you change this port to access it from outside through the web browser, you don't have to change this port because this is just how the front and back end communicate. Okay. So next one down is the port that the backend is running on, which is 8080. So again, unless you have a reason to change this is the container port. This is not the host port. Unless you have some reason to change this, don't mess with it, honestly. You don't need to. The Quant UX is just the database name under Mongo. The Quant UX is the table prefix name under the Mongo database. So I wouldn't change these. You can if you want to, but I wouldn't. There's no reason to. This is how it reaches the Mongo database. So again, this uses the container name that we already gave it and the port that the database runs on. So again, nothing here to change. So really, I tried to make this as easy as possible. I'm trying to give you flexibility if you have to change it for some reason, but I'm trying to give you as many things as I can that you don't have to change. So as we continue down, we'll go right here to the mail user. So this you should set as an actual email user because this is how your email works. And the same thing, the password for that user, the host, your SMTP host if you have SMTP. Again, your JWT secret, I tell you how to get this over in the GitHub page, so kind of check that out. But it does need to be a long string of mixed case characters and numbers. And then this is just a folder path inside the container for storing your images and your image apps. So again, these two things you really shouldn't have to change. The only things you should change are right here. Your mail user, your mail password, and your mail host. I don't even have the mail port set up here or anything else, so I'm not even sure how well this is going to work. I'll have to kind of check that and see how it goes, but everything else in this should be functioning fine. Time zone, America, Chicago. That's my time zone. Whenever you get this, you should change this to your time zone. And in the GitHub page back here, I linked you to. Let me go back to the page. So here in the GitHub on this table of environment variables, right down here, I linked you to where you can go look at all the time zones that are valid, so you can find your time zone. And the same way with the JWT secret, I linked you to a page that'll help you generate a JWT secret that's pretty strong. So you can go do that just to make it a lot easier for you guys so that you're not having to kind of wonder like where do I get these things? So you can get all these things, and once you set those up, that's it. You're done. This just depends on Mongo, the back end, and that's it. You're set, you're ready to go, and everything's good. So the only things you might need to change are the port right here if you're going to use a different host port, and then your user email, your mail user, your mail password, your mail host, and your JWT secret. There's 4 things there that you really need to change. Other than that, I would say you can probably leave everything else alone and everything should work correctly. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to exit. I'm going to go make some modifications real quick, and then I'll be right back, and we'll run the Docker compose command and make sure everything comes up the way we expect. All right, I've modified the things in the file that I need to modify, so we're going to do Docker compose up -d, which means run it as a daemon in the background. So this should go out and pull down Mongo, which it's going to right here. I don't know why Mongo kind of makes a mess out of the screen sometimes when it pulls down, but whatever. That's probably not a Mongo thing, that's a Docker compose thing, but hey. There we go. Now it's going to pull down the Quant UX backend image. And finally, it's going to pull down the Quant UX front-end image. And there we go. Everything looks like it's done. Now we can do Docker compose -f logs, or sorry, but I think it's a logs -f, which means just let me see the logs as they scroll through. Oh, it exited with code 132. Wonder what that means. Mongo exited. Wonder why. We may have to specify a different version of Mongo just depending on our CPU here. That's okay. We can do that. So We're going to just modify. I'm glad I ran into this because I haven't run into this on my other machines where I've been testing. So we'll do nano docker docker compose down. Actually, let's just take this down. That should get rid of the containers that exist, I think. There we go. We'll do nano docker compose again, and let's go put in a version for Mongo. So what we can do is go out here to Docker Hub. We can find the Mongo official image. At 4.4.12, that's pretty close. Let's go get that one. So we're going to go back here, nano docker, and we'll go change this to 4.12, and I'll update this in my file as soon as we get everything running. There we go. It's going to pull down the new version of Mongo. It should already have our QUX BE and front end, so BE and FE. So all it has to do is pull that one. The other two should start up after Mongo gets going here. And again, we'll do docker compose logs -f. And let's check it out, see if everything looks like it's going to run the way we expect. Looks like it created the indexes and everything that we want. So what we'll do is we'll jump back over to the browser. And in our browser, I'm going to go to the IP address 192.168.10.26, and we're going to go to port 8082. And here's our application. So we're going to go to sign up because I don't have an account yet. So I just put in the email I want to use and a strong password and hit submit, and we are logged in. So when we first look at this, you can log out. We can log back in to make sure everything worked. All right, we logged back in. That's good. So we've got my account, so you can set up your account information. Home page. And a password if you want to change your password, which I don't right now. And then you can add a photo if you want to. I don't have a photo, so there's nothing to add. And then you can go back here. So when you come here, it's pretty straightforward. You just go to the plus. You're going to add a new prototype. So we'll just call this my desktop. And then you have different sizes of devices listed here, and you can even do custom. But I'm just going to pick desktop 1280 by 720. I'm going to say create. It's going to ask, do you want to import something that you've already got, or do you want to create something new? In my case, I'm going to create something new, and then you'll see I'm dragging around the page, so I'm just going to click on it here onto the canvas so it locks it. And then over here on the left, you've got all these tools. So if you kind of check this out, I'm just going to look right here, and this is all your widgets. So for an open source system, for something that you would expect that just somebody made in their spare time, I want you to look at this. This is really great. Now there's some other ones out there that I think people have pointed out recently, but look at all of these different widgets that you've got that actually, if you really think about it, with all of these widgets that are here, you could make a pretty amazing user interface and kind of expect that people would understand what that's supposed to do. You know, a prototype is meant to be kind of test out what I did. It doesn't have to have color. It doesn't have to have all that stuff behind it. A mock-up is really meant to be kind of like a sketch on a napkin even, to kind of say, here's kind of what I'm thinking, and then work on that together with your development team and really come up with the best ideas. But if you look over here, he's got wireframe. He's got the colorized setup. I mean, look at all the things that I'm running this on my own server. Look at all of these controls. This is just incredible. Look at the things you can do with all of the widgets that he's got. Look at the icon sets. I mean, this is amazing. And then you can create your own components and you can import components. That is awesome. You can search through the components right here. So, I mean, just super incredible. Let's look here. Let's go to this one. Let's call that combo. Let's just see what comes up when we do combo. Look at this. Here's all the different types of combo boxes you have. Now if I go here and do it, combo, again, it just filters it down to the different types of combo boxes you've got. That's awesome. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have to do this stuff. Maybe this is nothing anybody else uses but me, but I think this is absolutely incredible, and I think Klaus has done just a tremendous job here. So if you like this project, please get out there and get it, but please go to his GitHub and let him know about it. Give him a star. Let him know this is great. You know, give him a comment. Give him a, you know, link to him over on Reddit somewhere. You know, I mean, just let people know that this is out there and that it's really tremendous software, because he has done just a bang up job of this thing. So here you can say I'm going to create a rectangle. Right there, there's my rectangle. So a lot of things are just shapes. Building shapes and doing things with shapes a lot of times inside of a mockup is such a useful tool. I know that seems like not a big deal. Right here you've got text. So if you click on the little plus, I created a text box. Look at this. I mean, just absolutely so simple. Click on it, delete. So create a hotspot. I think hotspots you can use for the mockup to kind of say, here's a place where you're going to click. Now, here's one thing I really like. So I'm going to build out a UI real quick, and then I'll kind of talk about this. All right, so I've created this real simple little mockup page here. Let's just say that I was trying to set up some kind of wizard so that somebody could pick the day and the time that they want to meet. So they've got a calendar thing here, and when you click, you say save that, puts it in the text box so you can see the date written out, and then you're going to go to the next step. So here you can see what step you're on. Here you can navigate. Here you can say I need to add new events. Okay, who knows, right? I just throw some stuff on the screen and trying to give you an idea of what this can do. Now you could make more screens, but one thing that I want you to see is you can actually make this thing play so somebody can interact with it. So now I can type and I can say 11/22/22. Maybe that's the date that I want. Maybe I need to make this button clickable, so I had to do some work in the background to make it able to be used. Maybe this is too close to the edge. So somebody tests this and they say, you know what, I like this, but it's too close to the edge. That's where I love this thing. I say, I'm going to make a comment right here. And it says, so put your initials as a user. Now why it puts BC and guest, I'm not sure, but hey, it doesn't have my name, I think, yet, so we'll kind of see where that's at, but this needs to move right a few pixels to give some space between page border control. So now I hit create, and now someone else can log back in and they can see this comment and say, oh, okay, well let me go do that. So they can say, you know what, I'm just going to drag this over a little bit. And then now they can make a comment themselves. They don't even have to do anything other than say update, right? How does this look? They can do it. When they're done, they can just delete the comment. Right like that. So it's finished, everybody's happy, and now I can go back. So I've made something that I can actually show people, and I think that's really terrific. This is such a cool tool. Again, tons of tools over here on the right as well for manipulating these objects and changing them. So you see there's only 3 steps here. But if I click on that over here on the right, I get some tools where I can start manipulating this object and actually give it more pieces. So he's got all kinds of control built into these things that you just, it's such an amazing tool to build this out and kind of see this. I think it's really great. Alright, I've had Quant UX up and running for a little bit of time, and I'm using the version that I've pushed out there to Docker Hub. Klaus has said that he's going to try to get the Docker file builds into his CI/CD build, so we'll kind of see if that happens. In the meantime, I'll try to keep up with his updates and keep the image up to date as well. I'll try to check that this week, in fact. I'm a little hoarse, as you can hear. I've been a little bit sick. I apologize for that, but I did want to show you kind of some of the things that you can do. So if you've used Figma in the past, I imagine this is going to look semi-familiar to you, where I've got a project and I'm inside that project right now. And you can see there's just a few things here that you can kind of check out. So you can say test. So you get a little bit of information here from the testing side. You can look at your dashboard to kind of check out what tests are going, you know, test coverage, things like that as far as what you're working on. Heat maps, which is interesting because if you get people clicking in prototypes, you want to know where they're clicking. So that would be really interesting. And then you get settings. So you've got this prototype name, and you can set all these different settings, and you can see that that's my initials there. And you get some really great information about how to kind of test this thing. So if I click on this link and I hit copy, let's just open up an incognito browser here. It's basically going to go out to my prototype site, and it's going to give us this nice welcome page. So you were invited for a usability test of the prototype. You can start with the prototype, so we can just click here. It tells you what to do. You can kind of see here's where it comes up, and if I click, I'm already on the screen that I would want. If I were to click here in my prototype, of course, I would want to set that so that it goes to the next screen. And then on that screen, I would want it to do whatever this is going to do. So I've got this prototype that I've been building. And we'll kind of go back here again, and we'll go back to the design. So I've got this prototype that I've been building, and if we jump back into it, we can kind of scroll across here at the bottom. But this is my first screen. So as I've been messing with my network, one of the things I wanted to see was how is my Wi-Fi coverage around my house, because I'm trying to switch from Eero, but Eero in many ways is good and in many ways is bad, so it's kind of ruined me. But for one of the things I want to find out is where's my Wi-Fi coverage. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna create this place or this application. I don't know how I'm going to program it yet. I'm just kind of coming up with the ideas, but I know there's apps out there that'll do this, but I want to make a really good open source app that is easy to use and easy to run and doesn't have 1,000 different things you have to do somewhere else to make it run. I just want to use like the Wi-Fi stuff that's built into Linux on my laptop and walk around my laptop and click a button and have it take a survey of that location and tell me what are the strongest signals that it sees, what frequencies are they, what channel are they, and slowly build a heat map of my Wi-Fi across my network. So starting out, you have this page, you would click here, and as when you click there, it's going to start searching, and it's just going to bring up all the information about all the Wi-Fi that it sees, the channel, the frequency, and the decibel level for that Wi-Fi radio. And decibels are in minus, and it's always kind of weird and confusing to me. But anyways, the higher the number, I guess the lower the number since it's minus. So like the further away from 0 you get, the less strong the signal is, and the closer to 0 you get, the better the signal is. So that's always a good thing. And you would sort by these values. Now this is just a grid showing you what you're getting, but you're walking around and you're saying, you know what, I want to see what these values are. So in each location, you're gonna click. Now the idea is that you could also upload a floor plan, and as you do each one, click on the floor plan over here on this tab, and then basically have this thing give you that information for that location. So you're basically on your floor plan of your home, you're saying click and, you know, scan again. Give me the information for that one. Move around, click on the home, scan again, give me the information for that one. And little by little, it builds out this information about how your Wi-Fi network looks. And then you can place where your Wi-Fi hotspots are and filter it down to the Wi-Fi name you care about. Because you have multiple hotspots like I do. They all have the same name if you want to do fast roaming. So being able to build that out would be really useful, I think. And it's a project I want to do. I haven't started the project other than a little bit of prototyping here, and it's very short, but I wanted to kind of show you what this can do. I think it's pretty great. Now, I haven't hooked anything up yet, which is, I know, a shame. But I think you can kind of get an idea of what a tool like this can do. And when you start thinking about user testing, I mean, what a tremendous thing to have. I want to get people on this before I even build it and say, here, I've got a prototype that I built that's going to give you an idea of what it's going to do. And the first thing is, when they come to this screen, do they just click on this button and say, oh, I get it? Do they want to move up here and upload a floor plan first? Maybe I have to have that in there, right? I need to build out the prototype all the way. Maybe they want to go down here and see what things look like, you know, in historical grids. There's just so many options that you could have. And then you make those things clickable and you make them jump around to different screens, and you make those screens something that give them some kind of information for what they did. So if they were to click this button, it would jump over to that next screen, just like this. And they would see this and they'd say, okay, I see what I'm trying to do. If they filter, you can make this filter. I don't know. I haven't tried out to see if we can actually hook these things up. There may be some pretty cool stuff. I think there's some really great stuff built into this. And for this to be open source again, what a tremendous job that Klaus has done. I mean, just absolutely amazing. But I wanted to show you guys really what this can do when you start building it out. Because I just threw some stuff together on the earlier part of the video. But I wanted to kind of show you, like, this thing could really be so tremendous. And when you start looking at this from the perspective of, okay, now I can put this into a play mode and I can see what it can do and I can click and I can actually make it go through the steps. I mean, that for me is where the power comes from of not just mock-ups, but prototyping. So sometimes you just want to start with a black and white mock-up, just line drawings, right? That's the best way to start. Just get a feel for the layout and the flow. Then start putting some fidelity behind it with these nicer images that he's got already set up for you. You can change colors. I customized these colors already. You can change fonts. You can go grab icons and resize them. So, I mean, this is just a regular MDI icon that I just grabbed and I resized it. And here, I've just got a button. You can change this button all you want. I mean, it's up to you how you make these things look. And then I've just used a normal grid, and I adjusted some coloring, and I adjusted a few things about it to make it kind of fit what I want and how I want it to look. And I just grabbed a text field to use for a filter. I mean, it's so simple, but so great at the same time that I'm able to do this very quickly and create these mockups really fast and basically just grab this thing, copy and paste, and you've got these different views that you're now using for this mockup that you want to create and this prototype. And then you can hook things up to actually take actions, which I think is tremendous. And you've got this really great way of saying, here, user, I need you to click on this, or show me how you would do this if I was to give you this application. And then when you get that feedback, like I just showed you on the dashboard, I mean, what a great thing to see from your users to know, like, hey, they get what we're trying to do here. They can see, so I can go into my testing and I can see like how many tests were run. So here's one test that's been run. If I go in here, it shows one test was run, and it shows like the test coverage was 33%. I only did one screen because I didn't have anything hooked up. I was on it for 7 seconds. So as you get more people to do these things, you suddenly really start to kind of see like what's going on. And now you get this heat map with your screen so they can see like, where did this person click? What did they do? What did they take action on? And just so, I mean, oh my gosh, what an amazing tool. I mean, I just wanted to show you that this has so much more than I originally showed in the original video where I recorded how to install it and set it up. But I'm excited about this. This is a passion for me as a person who does this as part of my job. So I'm really excited about this tool. I hope you guys like this. If you do, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along on the journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.